Hello, neighbor. I'm Robert Burns, and welcome once again to another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. You will recall that we recently put out a feature about 8 days ago, or 9 days ago, entailing Billy Broussard's court hearing for the potential imposition of sanctions under Article 863. I indicated to you that that's an incredibly high burden to prevail upon. It's an incredibly high bar to have to clear. And yet Eric Hike did attempt to do that today. I can only tell you that he failed. That's the one-word answer. The Judge Bourne, who seemed to be incredibly polite today, incredibly respectful to both parties. I will mention there's a major trial going on, the St. Martin Parish School Board versus Shell Oil, and so there was a big audience for this, quite a number of attorneys. But the bottom line is, after both parties were allowed to argue their points about why sanctions should or should not be awarded in this case, the judge said it would be inappropriate to award attorney's fees. He did assess the court costs, which Mr. Broussard had already paid, so that was a non-issue, and Mr. Broussard didn't even challenge that. So, Mr. Broussard, goose egg, no attorney's fees. And I can only say that I'm not sure how Eric Hike thought, given how unbelievably high the bar is for awarding 863 sanctions. I have no idea how he could have possibly thought he could prevail. There was a point where Hike introduced his billings, and he said that each, Melissa, in other words, Melissa Dubrock, as well as Mindy, mob boss Gerard, they had incurred $3,000 each, and that's what he put in front of the schedule for Judge Hike to consider an award of. That seems awfully low, but I'm not in charge of Eric Hike's billings. And you got to remember, Allie LeBlanc was in every one of these hearings. Allie LeBlanc did a lot of the legal work. My guess is Allie LeBlanc is the one that had to burn the midnight oil to file the 863 motion for sanctions. I've done a lot of talking. It's time I turn it over to Mr. Broussard, who clearly prevailed today, and the matter is now dismissed with prejudice at your cost. But do you feel like you gained a lot from having filed this? Let me let him take over. I'm going to let him say everything he wants to say. I'm going to kind of move to the side here. The floor is now yours, Mr. Broussard.
First of all, I'd like to thank God for his deliverance. I will say, though, any fight you get into to defend yourself, what have you, you're gonna have some collateral damage. You're not gonna defend yourself and not get any licks, late. You gotta be ready to have some collateral damage, and the collateral damage was well worth it to get the information to be able to now show the courts, St. Martin Parish, that this evidence they supposedly have, all this, evidence, they call it evidence, this testimony from these witnesses, etc., was just a hit piece, was a bunch of fabricated information. And I mean, we now have practically all the Facebook posts that were put out there.
We got them all.
So St. Martin Parish, this next goal, the Super Bowl, as you call it, of the case between me and St. Martin Parish, I've been able to now, through these lawsuits, not that I wanted to sue these people, not that I was trying to get any money out of these people can't cover the damages they have caused me, but I have been able to get the information to prove that this evidence they have, it wasn't any evidence at all.
And I'm sorry I told you I'd let you speak long, and I couldn't help but interrupt there, all it was a bunch of malarkey, and I'm being very kind in the word I'm choosing, of material put out on a Facebook group for which they converted it from public to private. Why'd they do that? Because they knew what they were going to be posting. They didn't want him finding out about any of it. It was damning. It was lies. I guess I got my dander riled up a little more than you did, and I'm just...
Well, it's just interesting because that's a big problem we have in St. Martin Parish. People fabricate these little mobs. They come after people, and that's why St. Martin Parish has a lot of the problems they have, is because people get together and say, oh, we got to put this mob together. Let's put this false information out. And that's why you don't see a whole bunch of businesses beating the doors down at planning and zoning to come in this parish. Things need to change. We need something to be done to prevent this, to call these people out. You know what I'm saying? They're citizens also. We need to respect them. Like I said, you have through these processes, you have to respect everyone. But when these people get together and just fabricate mobs, fabricate information, sit there and like we've seen on their Facebook, I mean, just making a big joke about going through this, what the process that I had to go through, sitting there making all these accusations to the Planning and Zoning Committee, and then walk out and laugh and just think it's a big joke. And that's why we have these problems. That's why other people, I've talked to other attorneys from other parishes that came here and just sat in for other people trying to rezone their property, and they go, I heard one guy, he told the wife told him, let's get out of here, because people get to, you know, look, there's certain things that we don't want, nobody might want as a neighbor, you know, but at the same time, there's things like me just buying and developing some property that was, you know,
run down, drugs being dealt,
I bought
tents,
it,
vagrant tents,
right? I bought it,
hugely
fixed it
grown
up,
over,
and just because other individuals wanted my property, just because their last name used to be on the title of that property, they wanted it back. And the thing is I had nothing to do with why they don't own it today. But the thing is, I just buy the property, and these groups get together and say, oh, we're going to run him out of this area. That's not being a friendly neighbor. That's not being you know, it's not your constitutional right to just smear someone else just because you want what they have. Well, you know, so I respect them, but they need to respect their neighbors also. So
well, and I want to say one thing. Key in one of the last Facebook posts that was filed into the public record was Mindy Mob Boss Gerard having admitted that she purged a bunch of people because they weren't posting. And she said she wanted to confine this group to residents in that subdivision and certain council members. So now we have an admission that not only were your lies and garbage that was posted on here, things like, oh, we got a criminal docket coming up, he'll be arrested, he can't even set foot on his property, if he sets foot on his property he's going straight to jail. This was not only disseminated out to the neighborhood by her own admission, this was selectively submitted out to council people. And she said that the only people that I do not want in here, or I'm sorry, the only people I'm going to allow in here other than residents is certain council people. So she did far more damage than we ever thought she did. And thank God, hear what I'm saying, thank God for the good Samaritans of that subdivision who saw fit to provide all of these Facebook posts. Because it's mighty funny to me how when you think you're in the secret and dark, ooh, let's say what we're gonna say, you know, and then when a bright opening of the curtain comes and the sunshine comes in, what does she do? Let me tell you something. It's illegal for you to take screenshots and disseminate. Oh, really? Cite the statute, Miss Legal Expert. This is the same woman who wanted to say in violation of the TRO. Obviously not even temporary restraining order. What does that mean? It means it's temporary and it expired 4 months before, and yet you're going to say he's violating a TRO that had expired 4 months ago. I could go on and on, but there's no need. The posts speak for themselves. What I'm in a little bit stunned disbelief is that Eric Hite could have conceivably thought that he could prevail under 863. And I do want to just say one last thing, we'll let Billy wrap it up. At one point, Mr. Hite kind of lost his composure in that courtroom. You know, when you are appearing before a judge, you are supposed to direct all of your commentary to the judge. Mr. Broussard did that. When Mr. Broussard said that he should have filed 971 at the outset, which was made abundantly clear in the opposition memorandum, and Hike had no comeback for that, he actually went over toward Broussard and said, if you'd have handled, or I don't know the exact words he said, I'm certainly not going to get a transcript of this proceeding, but my point is, he started talking directly to Mr. Broussard, and I had the angle to see the anger on his face, okay? And the judge did say, look, I understand y'all's frustration. Well, there's a lot of frustration to go around on all of this, but his episode of walking over toward Mr. Broussard and wanting to confront him directly, and there were a ton of attorneys who saw this, is one of the most incredible displays I've seen, because you are supposed to control your emotions and direct your commentary at the court. He failed to do that. You want to wrap it up, Billy?
Again, I just want to say, you mentioned something I got to bring out. It's election year. So these council members that were on that council,
we know at least one.
Some of them I like. I like a lot of them, actually. Some of them I disagree with, but at the same time, a few of them are not running again. But I will say, too, there was a council member involved in a lot of the inside of this Facebook group. And going to the meetings, the little private meetings they were having at the houses, and people within the community were telling me, they were showing up and they were confusing the issues so much.
This group confused the issues? Are you serious?
People that were there that wanted to know what really is going on, because y'all saying he's opening a waste disposal site, and at the meeting it was being said, he's going to be bringing in environmental waste. I mean, just all kinds of lies. So to sit there knowing that there was a public notice, a government public notice put out in the paper, that I don't give it to the paper, Planning and Zoning gives it to the paper, and they were like, no, this is not what's really going on. He's trying to bring in environmental waste, and it's going to be a big, the flies, they even said I was opening a waste disposal site and a slaughterhouse on the same 33 acres.
Not
and
to
the
mention
blood was going to be running into the street. That's how ridiculous it was. But I mean, a council member that she has the inside. She has the inside of knowing what's really going on. She had the public notice that anything that she should have brought there was to explain to them, this is what the government have put out in the paper. This is all he's trying to do. But yet to go in there and confuse the issues to the extent that they did, and that, it's election year. I will say that. So the thing is, we cannot have council members that just so scared of little mobs, so scared of little groups, that they just completely, like something like that. Like it's a public notice. Why go in there and cave to little mobs like that, little Facebook groups and all, because you think, I need their vote, so I'm going to. But yet, at the same time, how often are you seeing individuals, people trying to do development, business, anything, coming into your area wanting to invest money? And when you play into the hand of a mob like that. So the thing is, it's election year, and I'm hoping. There's council members, parish president, and we need to change the way that we treat people that want to come into the community to do anything. Just do anything in our community. I mean, you cannot be frustrated to the point, I don't want people just coming down my road. That's how a lot of this that
was the genesis of the whole thing.
Right, where it really flipped was that somebody could walk into the parish president's office, and he was under oath saying it, in 5 minutes. And just because he was upset that I was going down his road, which is a road that I own 33 acres of, just, my truck was going to my property. So the point is, for that type of, attitude and the way you treat people that want to come into the community, things need to change. But it's election year, and we need to make a change on the way we treat people. We need to give people more opportunity, allow them to live their lives for all, opportunity for all, not just for the select, few, which is a small percent. People talk about the powers to be in St. Martin Parish. Most of them, the powers to be that we all knew of, they're all dead and gone. What's left is just a small, minute. And when people tell you how to vote, you need to look deep down in your heart and pray, and don't allow the man to tell you how to vote. You need to look into it deeper, and hopefully we have options. In the past, the powers to be didn't give us much of an option. So I think this go around, I'm praying by the grace of God we have an option. That way we can have a better community, and we could be friendly to our neighbors. I mean, everybody likes to be able to have the neighbor they've always had and don't want the no new people moving in. But that's why we have a lot of the problems we have, and people that even from the community, if they're not in the clique with the powers to be, they can't do anything. If anything, they're constantly trying to consider their property a nuisance and tear them down and push them out. So it's election year.
It is election year, and I want to say one last thing, because I know we're getting on the time limit we like to do for these things. But not only did this council person not show up and provide the public notice of what he was actually doing, I have it on good authority from a source I trust and have come to rely upon for goings on in that neighborhood, that she flat out said in that meeting, if he gets this, he can do whatever he wants. He can bring in anything he wants. How far for an elected official to go to a private meeting in a private residence and make such an asinine statement is inexcusable. And you know who you are. You know who you are. Okay? So, yeah, it is election season. I think that these type things, they've bubbled up to the surface. They are what they are. So with that, Mr. Broussard, if you want to make a little concluding remark, I guess we can consider this chapter closed. This is it for all of his suits as far as plaintiff. So now we just have the one, like he said, Super Bowl, where at his decision,
I like to use the word Super Bowl. Hike seems to like football. So
Super Bowl, yes.
I don't know nothing about football, but he likes football, so I got to speak his language.
But Hike won't be involved in this. Well, I mean,
through the process,
indirectly he's been.
His clients will be brought in as witnesses.
Well, there you go. That's it. Just now with all these revelations. So we got a ton of information here for that ultimate Super Bowl court hearing, which will be the permanent injunction over which he has sole control of when that may transpire. So we're just outside of the courtroom, only about 10 minutes. Well, it's been more than that because this feature's been more than 10 minutes. But it's fresh. Mr. Broussard got the resounding win. And I say a win because they were the aggressors here. This matter would have been over and dismissed. And instead, they said, no, we're going to send it into overtime. And guess what? In overtime, I made the football analogy, or he made the football analogy about sending both safeties and even one of the cornerbacks in an effort to sack the quarterback, who was Eric Hike in this analogy. Well, guess what? They got him. He went down to the ground today, and the ball was turned over on down. So, Mr. Broussard, congratulations on the court appearance. I want to salute you on having that strength, that resolve, even when I was getting guidance that you were making some wrong decisions. Both
a lot, and I gotta thank God and everyone that's helped.
Amen.
And the Good Samaritans and all that came forward, because it was just the right thing. And you got, like I said, you're gonna get collateral damage, so
yes.
It just happens. But I've been able to to spoil the plot. So I look forward to moving forward.
Sounds great, and we look forward to seeing you again on another Sound Off Louisiana feature in the very near future. Thank you once again for your dedication.
Thank you.